you end up making mistakes really quick.
The fastest steel cab truck in Australia. It's just more of a toy for me than anything else.
I'm here with Rob John from RJ FAB.
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
How you doing?
So,
good to see you again.
we were gonna run through. I'm sure you guys kind of have seen his stuff on Instagram and just wherever on Terra. And Rob builds some of the more premier off-road vehicles. And hot rods.
That's actually what we started doing, is building drag race cars and hot rods. And,
when did you first get into doing trucks?
so one of my customers I built a 63 Impala for, he said, hey, can you build me an off-road truck? He kind of talked me into it.
Yeah.
And it was a cool, fun project, and so that's actually the red F-150.
So that's a 96 he's talking about, 96 extra cab red F-150.
Yep.
I remember I saw it at Jump Champs.
Yeah.
It was sitting at Jump Champs. It wasn't running, but it was sitting there. I mean, it was running, but it wasn't actually running the event. And that was, I think that was the first time I saw your stuff.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, RJ. And then I realized, because all the time you see it on the shock mounts, like it's a
And then I had the Can-Am there, too. That luxury Can-Am build.
Yep.
Was fun. That was one of the funnest cars I've ever run.
So we are here in your shop.
Yeah.
How big is this place?
50 by 80, so 4,000 square feet.
And this is just one of 3 garages on his property.
Yep.
This is where all the magic happens.
That's where the hardcore work goes down.
The hardcore work. So let's run through the trucks.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, right now, this looks like an F-150 or a Raptor behind us.
2014 Raptor.
Yep.
Not a super crazy pre-runner build. We do have like a half cage in it. We plated the frame rails, back half it.
Yep.
We have an H&M kit in the front.
Okay.
With a Whipple supercharger.
Nice.
And I believe ADV fiberglass in the front, if I remember correctly.
So as far as the Raptor platform goes and the F-150s, Kevin at H&M, he seems like he's been the guy to do these things.
Yeah, I think he's one of the first guys to do one too. So,
yeah. And I remember, maybe 97 to 03 F-150. I'm oldest. We're both old.
Getting up there.
But when I was in high school, I used to see like the 97 F-150s, and the only person that was making a nice long travel kit for it was Kevin at H&M.
Yep.
And he's kind of cornered the market on all the Raptor kits. As far as longevity and durability goes,
he's
they're
like
the best.
The innovator of it. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And it's just like the tried and tested thing.
Yeah.
So H&M kit in the front.
Yep.
Is that 4-wheel drive?
Yes.
Okay.
So retaining 4-wheel drive.
Yep.
In-cab cage. We didn't get super crazy with it. You'll have to excuse, we're storing a bunch of parts in this thing right now, but.
So you said half cage. Now, I kind of peered in here earlier and I saw, so I mean, this cage it's adding support from the back half, and the loads, and then that thing is ending at the B pillar.
Yep, but it's also transferring loads down through here to the bottom of the B pillar. And then we've connected to the chassis underneath.
Yeah. Chassis and the lower link pivot is all tied into that.
Yep. And to the body mount.
Yep. Looks like you modified that body mount, or is that a custom guy?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, as per customer, he did not want a full cage in it.
Yeah.
Normally, we would do a full cage, but customer did not want to do a full cage.
And I mean, the good part about this thing is you could add to this thing.
If you needed to, you could.
If he wanted to go to like a second phase, he could just pull the dash and start drawing tubes out from the B pillar.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's probably something he'll want to do later down the road.
Very well, yeah.
So very cool. And then whose links are these down here?
Ours. It's our 48-inch link, and then we just modified the pockets and moved them rearward.
Yeah.
Because of the cab, the 4-door cab.
And that's kind of the thing these days with people not wanting to run the shocks into their cab. You run
a full back seat, so we didn't want to interfere with the seat space that we had, so we just moved them back. Takes away a little bit of the travel, but there again, if you tune it, still work pretty good.
For sure. So what's the travel going to be at? Something in the high 20s?
23 or 24.
Oh, okay. And that's a Curry 9-inch.
Yep.
It's kind of your standardized 9-inch that's available.
Yeah, it's a 4-inch tubed housing, if I remember correctly.
Okay. And what's the end goal for this truck?
Just a nice street legal pre-runner.
Yep.
be able to have the best of both worlds, streetability, but also be able to, you know, get down in the dirt.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's a sealed cab, that's air conditioning, four-wheel drive.
Completely sealed up, yeah, and it'll retain all the amenities that the truck had before, plus some more horsepower with the supercharger, so that's going to help out. This is Travis Sylvester's 2002 Silverado. We didn't build the whole truck. We don't usually like to take on projects too often.
Yeah.
That somebody else built, but this thing was built incredibly well by List Built.
Yep.
So we came in and we finished welding the stuff that needed to be welded. We added bump stops and rear shock mounts, and just added the column, the steering, built the swing steer for it, sway bar mounts. Just kind of finished some stuff that wasn't totally done yet, and now we're ready for exhaust and tin work.
Do you know how big the cell is?
Travis told me, and I can't remember. I want to say 90.
Yeah, it looks like it's something up there. They would call this a radius cell with a stacked spare for obvious reasons.
I'm under the impression he's only going to run a single spare.
I think you'd be fine with accommodating just, you know, one in there. I mean, you have the options with something like this to stack up, and if you just wanted to run one for, you know, a normal run and then go out somewhere, you could always just add that thing on top.
So the shock mounts are out of our norm. I know we already talked about this truck last time you were here, but that's our normal style shock mount that we're used to.
That's your kind of signature RJ FAB shock mount there.
So we had to do something slightly different. So I just thought that was a very interesting, intricate shock mount.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is because of where the pivots are. So it's almost gone from a frame rail truck, which you can kind of see the stock frame rail hanging in there.
Stock frame rails,
and
all
then,
the way to the link.
And then it kicks, and that kick turns into a big old upper and lower bulkhead, and that kind of dictates your design, you know, because you couldn't have a C-pillar landing and going all the way down because of where your shock location is.
I understand nothing. It was just different for us to design that.
Yeah. Are these Chris's links? These are Lewis built?
Yep.
Nice. And then it looks like these are Walker Evans wheels, which are kind of a timeless classic wheel.
There's a lot of very, very cool wheels.
Yeah.
But since I was a kid, I've always liked Walkers. So
yeah.
If you see my personal stuff, it almost always has a Walker Evans wheel on it.
Yep.
I would have to say it does always, unless it's a street car.
I'm more of a...
That's my go-to.
I like the Robbie Gordon wheels over the Walkers, but I mean, I think it's just an old school thing.
I just carried it forward as a kid. You know, it's one of those things I just liked it so much when I was a kid.
So the front of this thing, what's up front?
You may know.
This is a Missoula kit. So Chris makes, in my opinion, he makes the best Chevy bolt-on long travel kits, and I don't think he produces them anymore. But if you can get your hands on a Missoula kit for, you know, 99 to 02 and up, like a Cat Eyes 2, those are super solid kits, pocketed arms, and they
work exceptionally well.
Yeah, they work amazing.
Yep. And then we needed to do something with the stock rack, so we just designed swing steer setup for it, just to work within the confines of the factory spacing.
Yeah, and so that's the other issue with a lot of the Chevy trucks is they run rack and pinion style steering, and those things just blow out and blow out and blow out, and it's kind of the classic that you see.
It is the Achilles heel of the Chevy steering.
So this thing is adapted to a steering box.
Yep, steering box linked to the swing set with a RAM assist.
And
it's packaged in there extremely tight.
Well, packaging is packaging, you know. So you guys can kind of see. So we built
the rear cross member to tie the rear in, you know, the rear mounting points of the lower control arms.
Yep.
And then we built our pivots off of that.
So I want to go over the steering a little more. So your box is mounted to the frame.
Correct.
Your pitman arm here is mounted to your box, and then you have what you would call a drag link.
Yep.
Okay, and your drag link is mounted to the center link, which is this fabricated piece in here. And you can see, I mean, just follow through the frame, and that will go out to your tie rod, and your tie rod will go to your spindle or your upright.
This is a mock-up box, Martin. We can turn this if you want.
Yeah, if you can turn it, then we're good to go. And you can see that rear cross member is all tied in with swingers. But you can see even the fact that you can turn it that easy is already something significant. And this is all your fabrication up front, or this is Chris's?
No, Chris did all this. Yeah, we just ended up welding everything up.
Okay.
Some of it was welded. We finished welding stuff. This is our stuff right here. Obviously, we had.
Yeah, for the box.
The box was in the factory location. We ended up having to move it around a little bit to make the swing steer work.
Gotcha.
And then one cool thing that I like to point out, maybe helpful for a lot of guys that are doing steering columns. This column is an I Did It column. It comes in this 18-inch long model.
Yep.
So we just clamp it on. It just is the biggest time saver than fabbing up a bunch of steering stuff.
Yeah,
it has
absolutely.
Tilt, has turn signals built in.
So your tilt here. This is, so what he's saying is this steering column, a lot of trucks, when you start doing modified, you know, steering, and especially when you lose your stock dash and all your OEM stuff, you get into a bind with how do I run my steering wheel and what do I connect it to that's legit. And this thing's, you know, a step above like a race style setup where you'd have just, you know, a press in bearing and a race and something that's just welded. So this gives you that luxury kind of option where you have tilt, you have a blinker, and you have something that if you built a dash in the whole truck, you'd be able to tie in and this would make sense and fit and look nice. And that's from I Did It. This is the shorty. They make long ones too for hot rods with like exposed stuff.
A bunch of different lengths in like 2 or 1 inch increments, which is kind of cool. And then, you know, you can still put the quick release on. There's some people that make kits that have the quick release that still work. So if you wanted to do that, you can still do that.
Now let's talk about whose this is.
So this is Travis Sylvester's personal truck.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how many people are familiar with him, but he is gaining popularity like mad. He is a very good painter.
Yep.
We have, I think, 5 vehicles there getting painted right now, and we're about to take the Raptor and the trophy truck chassis over there.
He's always been a good painter, but he's really committed. Yeah, he thrashes hard.
His work ethics are unparalleled. It's amazing.
So let's cover this guy.
So this is chassis number 2 of the truck that we did last time you were here.
Yep.
Jeff Greenberg's 65 F100.
So this is a 65 F100.
So this one's a 66 actually.
66.
I always called it a 65 for the longest time. So on this one, when we were going over the other truck, you couldn't see the frame rails. So the engine and transmission's out of this. So now you can see the frame rails that we did. It's honestly a time saver to do your own frame rails than it is to clean up, box, and plate a factory set of frame rails.
Yeah.
Especially because we fixtured it now.
Yeah, I mean, with your factory frame rail, I mean, the newer trucks have this tar that is the Antichrist.
Yep.
The power of Christ compels you.
Oh, does it? Does it compel me?
But a 65 or 66 frame rail,
it's paint.
It's beat up too.
It's
like over
it's
years,
bent,
jack stands,
and it's
all
not
that.
square.
And it's not square.
That's the thing is those older trucks, when I've worked on like the Broncos and stuff, like a 77 Bronco, the stuff is not square. They didn't make things square. They didn't have the technology or the manufacturing processes to make things. So if you start pulling measurements and hanging stuff, you end up making mistakes really quick and they domino effect really hard. So what Rob's getting at is this truck and the other one that he has in here that's a little further along, they both have fabricated frame rails, which are rectangle tube with extensive overlays of chromoly plate on them. And that's all the way through the chassis. And that just saves a lot of legwork. And I mean, now the level of stuff that you do is, it's the cleanliness that you need right from the start, you know?
It just gives you a super clean canvas to build off of.
Yeah.
And then another thing to think about on a factory frame rail is there's no diagonals or X's from the factory stuff. So one frame rail is always trying to walk ahead of the other one. And that's what ends up getting them out of square and getting twisted, especially if you're off-roading a stock chassis or getting kind of crazy in a stock chassis. Those things will walk around.
Yeah, and that's the thing a lot of people overlook is they might build a crazy structure, you know, on the front section and the rear of the chassis and the cage, but they don't think about the load in between the frame rails, and they don't think about that they can shift just like a set of railroad tracks that aren't braced. You know, it's the same kind of deal.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it.
So this thing's running a coilover and a bypass and a bump on each corner.
Yeah, and I think Stu's going to upgrade this stuff. He's going to actually go to a 3.0 coilover and a 4.0
Gotcha.
bypass in the front.
Yep.
And I think he has the big shocks in the rear. So.
And then it's just another I-beam setup with swing steer.
Yep. Swing steer, I-beam, equal length, non-bent. I'm not a fan of bent tie rods. I know they work fine, and that's good, but my theory always is if it's bent, it will continue to bend more if you hit it hard enough. So.
That's a prime example. I mean, I have bent tie rods on my truck, and once you start to bend them, they bend more, and they deflect, and you get something like a death wobble coming.
Yeah.
So anytime you can veer away from bending something and just have it straight, it's gonna be stronger in the long run.
We always use Charlie as Power Steering Solutions. He's so good at what he does.
Totally agree.
He's just good to us.
So he's talking about Charlie at Power Steering Solutions. It's not just Rob, it's anybody who deals with him.
Yeah.
He's a stand-up guy. He's available. He gives you information without needing to have money. I mean, they're
he's
fairly
timely.
safe parts.
He's reasonable.
Yep.
And he's in my hometown.
Where's that at?
Yeah, Hesperia.
Hesperia? Okay.
Hesperia.
This has always been your place of growing up?
Yeah, since I was 3.
Oh, okay. Did you ever ride Honda Hills?
You bet.
All right, so this thing's pretty gnarly.
So Brad's trophy truck that he brought to us, it's gonna be a street legal 3-seat trophy truck. He wants to drive it to the race it, and drive it home. That may or may not work out.
Yep. So what
He
is...
may hit a trailer, he may not. You never know.
Where did this chassis come from and what is it?
I'm actually not familiar with who built the
Okay.
chassis. It's here for stuff like cooler mounts and
Just
just
finish
moving
work?
some stuff around, some
Yep.
finish work.
Yep.
McQueen changed the body around, just make it a little sleeker looking, a little cooler looking. We're gonna disassemble the whole truck, paint the chassis, we'll seal it, just kind of put it back together and just make sure everything's working right. We're gonna change engines too. I think it had about approximately 650 horse small block,
Yeah.
just sitting on the ground over here.
Yep.
And I think he's putting around 800 horsepower.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of passenger room and not a lot of engine room.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be fun, stuffing that other engine in there.
Yeah, it's got some very interesting proportions.
Yes. So we just made cooler mounts and just kind of changed some things around. He's run the truck for quite a few years as a play truck.
Yeah.
And so he's learned a lot about it. So he had an idea of what he wanted to change
Sure.
and upgrade. So,
Sure. Well, I mean, at least you know the chassis works and...
Yeah, he
gotten
says he's very
miles out of it.
comfortable and he's happy with how the truck works. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some very interesting stuff. It looks like it has a secondary bump stop. So it's got your bypass, your coilover, hydraulic bump, 2.5.
Yep.
And then it's got this guy, which is slapping the upper arm there, which is just a really, what I noticed was the angle.
Yeah, it's very
that's
interesting to see how it's going to come up there and contact that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It makes sense for that angle to contact that and, hit it 90 or
Just
whatever.
when you look at it from this vantage point, it kind of throws you off.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So my dyno's almost done.
I did see it lurking over here. That thing's nice install, just flush mount into the shop.
So this is the dyno that I have been using for 20 plus years. It's just more of a toy for me than anything else, but it also, for my customers, I can provide that for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another turnkey service to have. And this is all on Rob's property. He's one of the fortunate few that has the shop and home on the same property. What is this one all about?
This is like my clean room where we assemble vehicles. 64 Chevelle that I'm building for our customer Brad. It has huge tubs, our chassis from pretty much your feet back.
And what's the powertrain in here?
It has a 4L70 4-speed transmission and 525 horse LS3 crate.
And that's the crate.
Yep.
And what's next to that thing?
So this is my good buddy Brian Porter's, and he also happens to be my laser cutter. This is FJ Land Cruiser. So they're restoring it. So we put the inline 5. We wanted to keep an inline engine.
Yeah.
The inline 6-cylinder, the FJ did. I don't know if the 6-cylinder Toyota engines are hard to come by, so maybe that's why you went with this platform.
Yeah. So then we have this lineup, which is quite the variety pack.
This is a 65 F100 drag race truck. A guy contacted me from Australia. He wanted the fastest steel cab single carb truck in Australia. So we set out to build that. So we have a 2200 horse Steve Schmidt Pro Mod engine in it. Older Pro Mod engine.
What's the cubic inch on that thing?
600.
600.
But the guy kind of went MIA. So it's been sitting in my possession for going on 6 years now. This is the first drag race pro street car I built when I was 21, 22 years old.
What year is the Camaro?
86.
86. And what's the engine in that thing?
So it has a 408-inch Chevy engine. Everything's aftermarket, block, everything. It made approximately, with how fast it went, approximately 1,080 horsepower last time I had it together.
Yeah.
I have a fresh engine in it now. Car was a consistent 890 car before.
Yeah.
Full interior and everything, so I'm hoping I'm gonna run 860s.
And does it pull wheelies?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
What is it usually, what's the trap speed on it?
152.
Gotcha. And then you have a Beetle over here.
Yeah, so this was a really good buddy of mine in high school. It was a father-son build between them. And he died when we were 19. So about 5 or 6 years ago, they moved to St. George and they said, hey, we're ready to let go of Adam's bug. We just want to give it to you. We know you'll take care of it. But they said you can do whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah.
You can sell it, cut it up, turn it into a race car, whatever. And I said, nope, I'll always keep it exactly like it is.
It's a pretty car.
Yeah, it's cool.
There she is.
Little girl right there.
There she is. So anyways, you guys, hope you liked it. Thank you so much for showing me all your stuff. We have one thing over here that's not ready to be seen. We'll just do a quick one of those, and that's it.
Yeah.
Will that do?
That's fine, man. That's all
Later.
right.